Thank you for viewing our Technology on Trial media briefing. In recent months, the news has been dominated by the violations of environmental, social and governance, otherwise known as ESG, issues by the major tech companies. The CQI has believed for some time that these violations are not isolated cases, but are systemic and sector-wide. Today, for the first time, we will detail the extent of the allegations against the world's top 14 tech companies, along with many other household names. The report covers the 18-month period from January 2017 to June 2018 and was compiled using data from the CQI's corporate partner RepRisk, a leading ESG data science company who scour the world's print, online and social media, government bulletins and other online sources looking for evidence of business misconduct. The RepRisk Index measures a company's risk exposure to ESG and business conduct risks. It runs from 0 to 100, with companies scoring above 25 having medium risk exposure and scoring above 50 having high risk exposure. As you can see, the average RRI for tech sector companies is 39, a full 14 points above the recommended RRI ceiling. And the highest score is Amazon, with a score of 64. By comparison, a random sample of 20,000 companies from different sectors recorded an average RRI of 20, a full 5 points below the recommended RRI ceiling. We then looked at labour and human rights. The greatest number of alleged child labour allegations belong to Apple and Samsung and Sony. Both Apple and Samsung also recorded the highest number of forced labour allegations. In terms of human rights abuses, Facebook, Google and Apple all recorded in excess of 50 allegations in the 18-month period, and only SAP recorded no alleged child labour, forced labour or human rights violations. Specific allegations include an Amazon supplier forcing children to work up to 72 hours per week for a salary of less than $1 per day, and Facebook failing to provide adequate support for content moderators forced to watch violent images of torture and child abuse. Our investigation also suggests that there is cause for concern around poor employment conditions and occupational health. 3 companies in the top 14, namely Amazon, Apple and Samsung, have recorded in excess of 40 allegations of poor employment conditions in the 18-month period under investigation. Other violations include Google, with 30 alleged employment discrimination violations in an 18-month period, and Samsung with 64 separate occupational health allegations in the 18-month period. I will now turn to corruption, fraud and tax evasion. For the period under investigation, by far the greatest number of allegations of corruption and fraud were recorded against Samsung, with a total of 137. Specific allegations include a 6.7 billion KRW bribe to former South Korean President Lee Myung-bak. It is also important to note the 22 separate allegations of corruption, fraud and tax evasion against SAP. The company is currently under investigation by the US Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission for contracts that potentially violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The final area I would draw your attention to today is privacy violations. Much recent attention has focused on Facebook, on Apple and Google. However, LinkedIn, Yahoo, WhatsApp and Microsoft have all recorded more than 10 alleged privacy violations in 18 months. We expected the world's biggest tech companies to have governance issues around privacy and tax. Organisations of their size, their reach and complexity will always have problems of oversight. This report, however, details ESG violations more akin to the first industrial revolution than companies at the vanguard of technological advancement in the 21st century. It is all too easy to reduce these allegations to mere statistics, because this approach ignores the human stories, the child labourer, the individuals pressed into forced labour, and the appalling factory conditions, all identified by Rep Risks Analysis. It isn't good enough for boards of these companies to say we didn't know. This report is a warning shot. The message is clear. The biggest tech companies must act as the standard bearers for corporate governance. Their boards must question their role in the communities they operate in and their impact on society. Thank you for listening.